Hello, the Steven School, Alchemy. I am doing my experiments with crystal growing. I've got some stuff here to work with. This is my solution that I made in previous videos. Let me get my cell phone plugged in here and charging because it needs to be charged. Okay, got my visionware glass pot. Got the heat on. Now it's really hot, maybe too hot to just pour this straight liquid in. Anyway, so I've got my solution here that I want to try my crystal growing experiments with that I made. Maybe we'll talk about that. This is this glass thing I got at a store, and it was in the coffee section with coffee makers and stuff. But it looks good for my alchemy. Well, I preheated this pot, got it kind of warm, it's sizzling and steaming. But I wanted to speed up the video a little bit by getting the hot plate warm in advance because it takes a while to heat up. Alright, that went well. We didn't crack and break anything. Okay, so this video is part of a series which I want to try to organize in a playlist. But if you missed the last video, I took my silica, put it in hot water with the liquid from my blue vitriol that I made. Heated it up, stirred it with the intention of dissolving the silica and the blue vitriol together in the water, dissolve and coagulate, so that I could theoretically try to put the coloring into the silica, combine and unite. And then I filtered the solution to remove any solids, leaving the soluble materials. And now I want to evaporate this down into a super saturated solution. It looks like I have a good mix, I would think, here of the blue vitriol and dissolved silica. We'll heat it up a bit. These are some of my tinctures, which I keep showing because I like them, and I want to make more of them with weather permitting and the whole shutdown thing permitting, because a lot of businesses are closed and by appointment only. So these are copper nitrate, which I made from copper metal and nitric acid. This tincture is made from iron pyrite, and I have taken that liquid solution, diluted it in water. This is the concentrated solution that I made from iron pyrite. And this is my lapidus egg. Lapidus in pursuit of gold. Alright, so the liquid in the pot is vaporing away, it's evaporating. There's that steam coming off of it. I'm going to super saturate it. Turn the heat up a little bit more. This is an inexpensive hot plate from a grocery store. I wanted to make another magnetic stir hot plate, but they're expensive, and it would probably take a while to get one in the mail. I'm just thinking that, deliveries are probably slow. But for now, this inexpensive hot plate will be utilized. I've got another one of these. It's much larger. This one I bought at the grocery store. The bigger one I got at Goodwill in Auburn, California. But it's just like this, only much bigger. And then hopefully this summer, I'll be able to resume outdoor alchemy experiments. And I have this that I came across at Goodwill, which I'm going to use as a solar oven for crystal growing evaporations. Bringing crystalline material like this down to dryness in the sunlight, outdoors, keeping the dust and insects out and magnifying the sunlight at the same time. Does a really good job of removing moisture, drying materials without burning. The burning is avoided. If it was a good hot summer day and I could go do this outside, I could just use this with this solution to remove the water. Okay, so as it's vaporing away, I'm seeing a film develop on the surface of the water. I think you can kind of see what I'm seeing in the pot there. It's like a salty, whitish colored something. And the liquid below is starting to look more oily. It looks like some kind of salt crystals are trying to form around the edges, right above the water level. They are. Interesting. Something's vaporing away. It appears that more than water, maybe more than just water, is vaporing away. So I've turned down the heat. The color of this solution is like a metallic blue. It's an interesting color. remove my vitriol samples out of the way. This is the material that I use to supply the color. And I'm trying to imbue or tinge the silica with this. I'm going to share this to Facebook. All right. So I turn the heat on the dial to the off position. This type of hot plate retains its heat for a long time though. It'll take a long time to cool down, and this is steaming really good. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of crystals I can grow or make with this. It looks like crystals are already trying to form, small tiny ones. So the theory now is to evaporate this down into a supersaturated saline solution. Since I dissolved the silica and the copper nitrate together in hot water and then filtered it to remove the solids, they should be united in the water, and then evaporate this down to a supersaturated saline solution. And then I can, once I have that, I can begin crystal growing experiments. I can put it in the cold and see what crystals form. I could evaporate it to dryness and see what crystals form. And then I can start doing tests on these crystals, like baking them in heat. To see what we get. Alchemists supposedly made glass with silica and other things. So it looks like something's forming on the bottom. Down where the heat is. I think you can see it in the video. There's formation down there where the heat is. Still fairly hot with the heat off even. Still vaporing away. I'm gonna give it some more heat for a little bit. Yeah, it's still pretty hot. It's the alchemist brew, isn't it? It's like a witch's brew, except with alchemy. But this is not for consumption. I'm sure this is probably toxic. Copper salts are generally toxic, in my opinion, in my understanding. Metallic copper salts. See those little beads? Apparently they're tiny bubbles. Or perhaps it's a salt. They look interesting. I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit more. It's vaporing pretty good. But perhaps more heat will give us a better union of the elements anyway. So technically, I think I should bring this down to like a thick syrup and as the alchemist described it, there should be perhaps like a salty skin layer on top, which would indicate that the solution is supersaturated. It looks like it's getting ready to start boiling. I can see the heat definitely picking up. It's vaporing away much faster, much better. You got some heat in there. The color is intense. It's like a metallic electric blue. It sounds like it's getting ready to start boiling. It's starting to boil. It's vaporing away faster now. I'm going to turn the heat down a bit. It looks like it's getting more concentrated. It looks like a salt is beginning to develop, or a crystalline material, like tiny little crystals. They form. They seem to form in heat and then rise and then float back down to the bottom. So the raising the heat seems to be good. It seems to help crystal formation in this experiment. These little things that are forming are very sparkly. The crystalline formation seems to be speeding up. Yep, definitely. Looks like tiny little crystals are forming and they're taking shapes. This is exciting. This is getting exciting here. They're taking shapes. Kind of like little X symbols, like a multiplication symbol. That looks like the shape they're starting to take. They seem to form high, like an upward movement in the solution and then sinking down towards the bottom. They shine with a brilliance in the light. Let's go ahead and get any of them to show up in the camera. There's one over here. It's shining like a star in the solar system. It has brilliance. The solution is pretty clean and pure since it's been filtered and stuff. Dang, the brilliance of this thing is increasing. Taking more shapes. More crystalline type material accumulating. Yep, increase of heat seems to speed the reaction. And the water does appear to be super saturating, becoming more concentrated. Look at the color changing. It's becoming more concentrated. More tiny crystals forming. The heat level's picking up. I wonder if I should have plugged the high-speed internet cable into the laptop. Let's see now. It's boiling. More crystalline material is developing. See if I can show it in the camera. Seems to be more on this side. Right there. Tiny crystals developing. The color seems to be getting more concentrated. Like the light is not, like the light is penetrating it less, the more concentrated it gets. It's simmering. It looks like it's getting easier to see the little tiny crystals developing in the water down there. The water level has definitely come down a good bit because I can see lines on the side of the glass right here, and the water level's down here. So it's looking like it came down from here to there. See if I can show some of that. What I'm going to do is turn down the heat. Turn off the heat so take a bit to cool. I'm going to put the lid on it while it's still vaporing away. Leave it cracked so I can find vent. Because I want to see if any volatile materials form on the other side of the glass. If anything is being sublimed, I want to know. I would have put the lid on earlier, but I didn't, so I didn't want to slow down the evaporation. But I want to see if any salt develops or any crystals develop on the underside of the lid when this cools down. That's slowing down the vaporing quite a bit. I'll take the lid off and let it dry. See if anything forms on it. And let this vapor keep going. It's vaporing pretty quick right now. It definitely is much more concentrated now. Much more supersaturated. These look like they would be what's called seed crystals formed in here in the supersaturated solution. There's a bunch of them. They're tiny, but the water is much concentrated. It's vaporing slower now that the heat is starting to come down, but it's still vaporing away pretty good. All right. Well, I guess we'll let this cool down. It's going to be interesting to see if upon cooling more crystals form, what they are, or if these type of crystals need heat. I don't think they need heat. I think they will form on their own just by exposure to oxygen. I think the heat is going to make them dissolve in liquid more, and that simple contact with oxygen should make them crystallize. And then once they're dry, I want to see what happens when I add them back to heat again. If it kind of more solidifies them. Hello, how are you doing, Kim? So what's going on here is doing good. Glad to hear you're doing good too. So what's going on here is I took the material that was in this flask, that was the silica, water, and liquid from my copper nitrate vitriol that I made. I put it in this pot and added more water and turned up the heat so that I could get a better dissolution of the silica and the copper nitrate together, dissolving them really good together in heat. And then I filtered the solution in this coffee pot. I filtered the solution so that I got the the pure and soluble material. There's a little bit of salt crystal type stuff forming in the glass too. Anyway, so I filtered the solution, taking what was soluble and pure, and then put it in this glass visionware pot on the hot plate to evaporate it down to a more supersaturated saline solution that I want to use for crystal growing experiments. Let's see what kind of crystals I get. So there is what appears to be tiny seed crystals that look like kind of like salt-like, with shapes, taking shapes in the liquid as it's becoming more saturated. So I had this boiling, but I turned the heat off. It's still vaporing. The heat's coming down. The liquid level has come down drastically. If you can see the lines on the glass, it looks like the liquid was up here, but now it's down here. So we've lost, that looks like more than an inch. Looks like the water level has gone down more than an inch. It looks like I got a good dissolution on the silica and then filtered out what didn't dissolve. But since I see the formation of seed crystals, letting this cool down, letting the temperature come down, I think we're going to see some type of crystal formation in here over the next day or two, probably by morning. It's 9:45 p.m. right now in California. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of crystals I can make with this. I don't know if you can see the crystals or not. There's some right there in the glass. Oh, there's crystals forming on the outside of the glass and on the inside. That's interesting. Well, I'm going to let this cool down and see what we get. All right, I'm going to wrap this up and come back to this tomorrow and see what forms in here. If you want, you can check back tomorrow and see what kind of update we've got. Thank you for watching and have a nice evening.